great sincere thanks to Professor Bala to organizing this Philosophical Counseling International Conference, and then the entire team of ICPC members for their constant cooperation, answering each and every question. For that, I am also thankful to them. And I have prepared this paper as if the counselor and the counselee both are sitting face to face. You may call it Guru Sishya Parampara wise, but I'm saying I'm prepared in that way. The counselor may be the exponent of Advaita Vedānta philosophy, and I'm not saying this he should be a very realized master. At least theoretically, he understood the basic concepts of Advaita Vedānta philosophy. And the counselee is sitting in front of the counselor, asking pre-apprehensive the entire question, continuous questions, one after another. That way, I prepared the paper. So slowly, I'm going to read the paper because of time constraint, I think I must start it. Basically, where is the philosophy? There are so many problems for counseling, but I have taken stipulated problems, maybe incorporate with the Advaita Vedānta philosophy. The need for philosophical counseling arises when one faces challenges of life in terms of moral dilemmas, failure in life, setbacks, uncertainties, mastering of mind, purpose and meaning of life, life beyond death, that is life after death, value of life, source of your very existence, and above all, the crucial question as to who am I? Today morning, Professor Grime was saying the basic thing is the ignorance of our own self. To this end, the objective of my paper is to highlight, to ensure one of the methodologies of the Advaita Vedānta philosophy as delineated in the Māṇḍūkyopanishad, one of the primal Upanishads, and Gauḍapāda's Māṇḍūkyakārikā for the purpose of counseling. I have taken not the entire thing of Gauḍapāda, he is the commentator of Māṇḍūkyopanishad, and because of Māṇḍūkyopanishad he has commented, it is also called Māṇḍūkyakārikā. The method helps one to overcome the varied problems of life by realizing his or her own nature of self. The philosophy of Advaita Vedānta affirms oneness of existence and non-dual nature of the self. Due to ignorance of one's real nature, one identifies oneself with the limited body-mind complex. This limited being is constantly changing, subject to the duality of pleasure and pain, and experiences the cycle of birth and death. All problems of human life happens in the state of duality, which is generally Advaita Vedānta says this duality is apparent, it is not real. Now the counselee may ask, what is duality? Duality, the counselor says, duality is difference. When one sees oneself as limited being, one feels different from others, and the world appears different from oneself. This leads to likes, that is in Sanskrit called raga, and dislikes in Sanskrit called dvesha. Raga means the very common thing, likingness, attraction for pleasant things. And dvesha means aversion, or we can say repulsion for unpleasant things of the world. That which one likes, one tries to get it, possess it, enjoy it. So one moves towards that, as it were, and engages oneself in that activity. This is in Sanskrit called pravriti. We can say what is pravriti? Moving away, moving towards the action, moving towards do actions. Further, that which one does not like, that which one repels oneself, that which one finds unpleasant for oneself, it could be unpleasant for the body, it could be unpleasant for the mind, that one tries to move away from it. This in Sanskrit is called nibruti, or we can say moving away from action. As one acts, due to likes and dislikes, one gets engaged in actions. This is the doctrine of karma. And actions yields to results. When there is action, there is reaction. Then causality is set in motion, which is very subtle and very powerful force in our Indian philosophical systems. Once karma is set in motion, the results of karma are certain. that they are going to come. If we set cause in motion, the effect is going to come. If the cause is good, then results will be good. Good karma, that we call dharma, generates merit, punya, resulting in happiness, pleasure, or we can say sukha in Sanskrit. Bad karma, meaning wrong or unrighteous actions done consciously or deliberately, generates papa, or we can say demerit, resulting in misery, unhappiness, dukkha. Now, the counseling may ask, why do we do karma? What is the necessity of doing karma? Very important question the counseling may ask, why would anybody do bad karma? Why are we engaging in karma? Why do we do karma at all? The counselor may reply, the answer may be this: because of wanting and moving towards something and not wanting and moving away from something, we do karma. If the attraction and repulsion are too much, which becomes unmanageable, one oversteps the limits of morality and ethics. One reacts out of greed, anger, lust, hatred, and one does unrighteous actions. As we all know, people do wrong actions, not the out of principle or out of goodness. They do it because they are impelled or propelled by actions from within, by these forces of raga and dvesha, attraction and repulsion. Once the dharma and adharma are set in motion, the results are seen in life. If it is in this life, if it is not in this life, there are lives to come. This leads to the cycle of birth or rebirth propelled by action. This is the Pratitya Samutpada of early Buddhism, the doctrine of karma, and including the theory of causation. Now, the counseling may ask, what is the root cause of this? The root cause of all these above mentioned chain of problems of human life is duality, Dvaita. Duality is the experience of any multiplicity. The first question comes from the counseling, what is duality? Why this chain of problems? This implies not only to the multiplicity of many objects of experience, but also, and those fundamentally, the experience of subject-object relationship, counselor-counselee relationship. This is the Dvaita. The fundamental claim of Advaita Vedānta is that the phenomenal world, which we say samsara, is duality, and freedom from this comes from the realization of the underlying non-duality, non-dual reality. But if the counselee asks, what is non-duality? The counselor straightway cannot say this is non-duality. There are procedures by the scriptures given. The world is unreal in its appearance and is real in its essence. The non-dual self alone is real and the world is imaginary. There is no other material except the self. In ignorance, this reality of non-duality is experienced as duality, which leads to samsara. In knowledge, this very reality is experienced, or we can say realized as non-duality, leading to freedom from samsara. Hence, the knowledge of the self removes ignorance. And thus one realizes one's true nature. This can be the statement of the counselor. It is pertinent to mention here that all kinds of counseling deals with the waking state alone. Whether it is psychological counseling, whether it is philosophical counseling, we generally deal with the waking state of human being alone. However, the method of Advaita Vedānta takes the wakeful state, dream and deep sleep states of consciousness as a unit of life, as a totality of life for the purpose of counseling. Especially this method talks about 3 states of consciousness. The Māṇḍūkyopanishad, which is the quintessence of Advaita Vedānta philosophy, brings out the nature of self through a comprehensive and rigorous investigation of the 3 states, namely wakeful, dream, and deep sleep. This Upanishad, the excellence of this Upanishad lies in its direct and simple approach to self-realization. Now, in this, the counselee and the counselor discussion, there are many terms comes. They can be used synonymously, like the self, Atman, Brahman, consciousness, pure consciousness, Turiya, fourth, Chaturtha. These words, this terminology have been used synonymously. The Upanishads deals with the 3 states. And I will just go through each state, wakeful, dream, and deep sleep. First, I'm taking wakeful state. The main feature of the wakeful state, as we all experience, is the commonness of experience about the phenomenal world. All human perception, ideation, reasoning, and anticipation about the external world are considered as the output of this state. It is referred to as Vishwa. I'm not using many Sanskrit terms or many Sanskrit quotations or verses. Vishwa I'm just referring because it is called Vaishwanara also. In this state, consciousness is directed outside to things other than itself. It is always aware of what is without. The external world of duality and multiplicity is its field of activity. The outward turned sense organs are the channels of all its experience as well as its knowledge. Now come to dream state. The state of dream is a condition wherein the external sense organs cease to function. There is no cognition of I or mind with reference to the gross physical body. Based upon the impressions from the experience of objects of the one has internal perception. In this state, the consciousness is known as Taijasa by the Upanishad, since it is luminous and functions as the subject even in the absence of external objects. It experiences internal objects through internal life. It is also referred to as Antaprajna. Now, next is deep sleep state. As revealed in the Māṇḍūkyopanishad, in the deep sleep state, senses and the entire Antakarana comprising of intellect, mind, ego, and memory remains non-operative. The subject-object dissolves into the seed form of one experiences complete blankness. This state is shorn of all desires, dreams, and erroneous cognition. The Upanishad refers to this state as Pragyana Ghana, as mass of undivided uniform consciousness. This state is free from both knowledge as well as ignorance, owing to the absence of above Antakarana, that is mind, intellect, mind, ego, and memory, mana, buddhi, chitta, ahankar. This state is free from both knowledge as well as ignorance. Consciousness therefore remains blissful and peaceful, that is anandamaya. Here, consciousness is the enjoyer of bliss due to the cessation of the vibration of the mind. As consciousness reveals the presence of gross and subtle objects in waking and dreams, respectively, consciousness in deep sleep reveals even the absence of objects. The deep sleep state is the source of wakeful and dream states, and hence it is conscience of the self or consciousness in that state. The source dream states. Your happy, hungry stomach, after great enjoyment, heavy suffering, same peace in deep sleep.
I think there is a problem with volume, Professor Sujata.
Yeah, I think that
Because
there is a
I'm not
network
able to
problem.
listen.
Yeah, I think there's a problem at your
Responsible
end.
for the feeling of separateness. However, okay, let me check. One second. It's not audible. Is it audible?
Now you are audible, ma'am. Please go ahead. And you are having a 5 minutes left. So within a 5 minutes, please conclude so that we have a live interaction.
Okay, I'll do it. Now the problem is, if after analyzing 3 states, wakeful, dream, and deep sleep, now what is the problem with these 3 states and what is the 4th one? The 3 states alternate and differ from one another, but the self that underlies them is unchanging. The self remains unaffected and unattached to them. The experience of the 3 states is radically different from one another, yet one who goes through them remains the same. The evidence of the form in the form, memory in the form, I am that, shows its oneness in all the 3 states. One knows it is the same I that was asleep and dreamt is now awake. The self is non-dual and pervasive in all the 3 states of experience and is conceived in 3 ways. The Upanishad refers to the 4th, that is called the Turiya, the self, the consciousness, the Chaturtha, and describes Turiya as, by all negative descriptions, by saying that Turiya is not wakeful state, Turiya is not dream state, Turiya is not deep sleep state, Turiya is achintyam, alakshanam, unthinking in the sense it is called, it is not, the Upanishad has given the very nice descriptions, definitions of this in the mantra 7 of the Māṇḍūkyopanishad. Na anta pragya, na bahis pragya, na ubhayata pragya, na pragyana ghana, na apragyam, na pragyam. So many. Basically, the meaning is, because of time thing, I'm just limiting my presentation. It's just the method of Upanishads, the method of negation the Upanishad has taken to expound the nature of Turiya, since Turiya transcends all attributes and frameworks of perception. It is trans-empirical and trans-relational, and it is beyond discourse, image, and symbol. Now the question is, to know the self, to know these are the 3 states which are false and Turiya alone is real, okay, and which is the immanent and transcend of the 3 states. What are the prerequisites are required? I have given this Viveka, Vairagya, Samadhama, Adi, first thing. And secondly, I have also given Sravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana. And also why this duality occurs. What is the manifestation of duality and how it functions? The Gauḍapāda, the Sankara's preceptor, says the philosophy of mind is the root cause of duality. And he says all these dual objects comprising of everything that is movable and immovable perceived by the mind are mind alone. Because duality is never experienced when the mind ceases to act. He gives the Nyaya is called Anvaya Vatireka, and this he says includes in the movable includes and incorporates in it the entire world of conscious living being, and the immovable embraces the entire world of the manner. The counselor must know what is the philosophy of mind according to Advaita Vedānta. Sankara, the commentator, and the Gauḍapāda, the commentator, both explain the mind. What is the mind? It is basically the Antakarana in Advaita Vedānta. He says the methodology, simple methodology in Indian philosophy, Anvaya Vatireka, which demonstrate that with the rising of the mind, the world rises. And with the withdrawal of the mind, the world also disappears. In other words, with the presence of the mind, the world is seen to be present. And in the absence of the mind, the world disappears. Now it is thus that the snake perception is removed by the correct knowledge of the rope. So to the practice of discrimination and dispassion of the mind attains the state of no mind. No mind is very important in Advaita Vedānta. This is also called Amani Bhava and Amanista. But no, what is this no mind, or we can say Amani Bhava? He says, this is the Atma Satyanubodhena in the text, which means by realizing the truth about the self as non-dual consciousness, the mind becomes no mind. In other words, when the mind becomes suffused, immersed with the reality that I am Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi, then mind becomes no mind. As no mind is enlightened mind. No mind is not shutting down the mind. It is not like being inactive. No mind is not destruction of the mind, but realizing that mind is none other than Brahman. Swami Nikhilananda, he has written many books from the Ramakrishna order, comments that in one of his books of Māṇḍūkyakārikā, or knower of truth may move and act in the world like an ordinary man. He feels hungry and thirsty. He goes to sleep when tired. He feels compassion for the misery of others and tries his utmost to alleviate it. But at the same time, he says everywhere the non-dual Brahman alone, consciousness alone, ever free and ever pure. In this regard, we can take, I have mentioned many, the counselor may mentions many quotations, many simple statements, many examples from different Upanishads like Māṇḍūkyopanishad, VedÄnta, Gauḍapāda. In fact, it is the mind which is the cause of appearance of duality. Finally, the counselee, if he is gradually evolved to this state, he or she can understand it is the mind which is the cause of appearance of duality or the manifold universe. In other words, all duality is mere projection of the mind. When the mind attains to its pure state, it ceases to act and realizes its oneness with its substratum, the self. When the mind ceases to act, no duality is perceived. In this state, the mind rejects its separate identity, becomes no mind, and merges into the self. This state of no mind is known as amani bhava, amanastha, or we can say in English, simple way, we can say no mind. Indeed, the apparent acts of the mind projecting the world of duality are admitted only in the empirical realm. From the absolute standpoint, the mind is non-different from the non-dual self. However, the behavior of the mind in deep sleep is different and is not similar to that of pure mind, because in deep sleep, in Bija Avastha, there is ignorance. The mind loses itself in sleep to its seed form of ignorance. But the pure mind, being established in Brahman, Atman, shines with the awareness of pure consciousness. Now, I would like to conclude this way of methodology, especially Vedantic methodology, because these three states, those that falls in later on, and it includes both ethics, morality, social problems, everything. You can come gradually in the contemporary world, torn apart by caste, creed, gender, and religious differences. The Advaita Vedānta approach to counseling shows the path to realize the true nature of self. The philosophy of oneness stands as a statement of hope, as an injunction to live harmonious and virtuous life, to pursue higher knowledge, and to transcend the delusion of both the otherness, the other, and suffering. Thank you and namaste.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. V. Sujata, for this wonderful presentation. I just, because now presentation is over, so before I invite question, I just say one thing. That is what I find in all presentation, that we have given, especially in philosophical counseling, we have given much emphasis on this cognitive dimensions of personality. In fact, when we cognize something, to my mind, that mind is not empty. It has a all other, emotions, all other bodily logic. What I say, that with that we participate in the world. So for me, in fact, human personality is complex engineering of these three: cognitive, or affective aspects. So this is very important to see, especially when we counsel. Theorizing is, that's all right. We theorize and then we applied it. That's well taken. But to my mind, that through practice or through this application of philosophy, then we theorize. So especially if you see in Indian tradition, I just recall one story of this Buddha. When Buddha, after realization, he come to Yasodhara, and Yasodhara is very furious, and automatically anyone is furious about all such things what Buddha did. In fact, and now how Buddha counsel? he is not deliberating on any, cognitive dimension, or he is not doing any logic out of that. And you see here the whole idea of the Mahakaruna. And this is a very beautiful story I have heard, that both are weeping. Oh, yeah. So this empathizing aspect, or this, going there, that is a Karuna, going there to counsel and then try to address their situation. This is, I think, that unique aspect of philosophical counseling, because this is my observation. I don't know whether you people are agree, but let us more deliberate on that. So now I invite all those who are participating.
One second. I have just tried it, attempted this, because, as Blaise Pascal says, if you know this thing, follow this method as a counselee and the counselor, if you gain everything. If you lose, you will not lose anything.
Definitely.
Right? It's just an attempt. And if it clicks, it's fine. If it doesn't click,
no, I'm not. I'm just giving my observation, what I feel.
And this is very much practical, experiential things. In Indian philosophy, Shruti, Yukti, and Anubhav, these three components go hand in hand together.
Okay.
You listen to Shruti, that is the logical Shruti, cognitive, quantitative Shruti. Okay. Then you have to realize, means you have to experience it. This is sheerly experiential truth. One has to experience it. And I think this philosophy is the culmination of all schools of Indian philosophy, Advaita Vedānta philosophy. Gradually, it's evolving. And once you realization is very later stage. At least when we teach in our class, Gauḍapāda, now it introduced Māṇḍūkyopanishad in our course. At least some students, at least suppose thousands batch, at least one student, one day or the other will realize what exactly is the Upanishad saying.
Thank you so much.